Hello, esteemed friends. Today is January 30th, 2026, and we are reviewing the updated map of military operations. At the current moment, a number of changes have been recorded, and new information and confirming materials continue to arrive. The most notable adjustments relate to the Zaporizhzhia direction. There are also updates on the Sloviansk sector of the front. Clarifications have appeared regarding the Kupiansk direction. Video material was received from there, specifically from the Kupiansk-Vuzlovyi area. Furthermore, data is coming in regarding changes in the area of Vovchansk and in the Sumy direction, and a video clip has appeared from Tetkino, which will be considered at the conclusion of the broadcast. In today's review, only the key sectors of the front are touched upon, and we will consistently go through all recorded changes. Zaporizhzhia direction. New events are noted here, and video materials continue to arrive. In particular, a clip was published in which, according to available information, Russian first-person view drone crews disrupted a rotation of units of the armed forces of Ukraine in this sector. We move to the changes along the line of combat contact and begin with the Stepnohursk area. According to incoming information, Russian units managed to advance approximately 2.5 kilometers north of this settlement and occupy new positions. Russian sources report that a forward position of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, located in agricultural buildings near the Zaporizhzhia-Vasilivka highway, came under fire from the armed forces of Ukraine. However, after this, the units advanced forward and established themselves on the Primorske-Stepnohursk line. It is noted that positions in the specified buildings were subjected to attacks, and information was also received regarding the occupation of part of a forest belt, which was subsequently also attacked by first-person view drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. Additionally, it is reported that active work is currently being carried out in the directions of Malokaterynivka, Richna, Veselyanka, Madalinivka, and Zapasne. In these sectors, not only first-person view drones, but also artillery are being utilized. At the same time, advancement is complicated by weather conditions. Winter frosts and an unfavorable environment significantly slow down the pace of offensive actions. Despite this, a certain amount of progress is still being recorded, although its intensity is noticeably lower compared to the summer period. Huliai-pole direction. Reports of positive changes for the Russian side are coming from this sector. According to available data, Russian units continue to move along the railway line towards Zaliznichne and are also launching strikes on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of Zaliznichne, Staroukrainka, and Sviatopetrivka. Previously, it was assumed that Sviatopetrivka was under the control of Russian forces. However, new information indicates that the settlement remains under the full control of the armed forces of Ukraine. No confirming materials regarding its transition to the control of the Russian side have been received at this time, despite earlier reports of assault actions in this area. Regarding Huliai-pole itself, the Ukrainian side still does not acknowledge the loss of the western part of the settlement. Counterattacks by the armed forces of Ukraine using small assault groups, first-person view drones, and artillery are recorded here almost daily. At the same time, as of today, neither side demonstrates a sustained advance in this sector. Reports are also being received regarding the expansion of the zone of control in the area of the settlement of Solodke. However, the reliability of this information remains in question. Maps and diagrams of the presumed positions of the parties are appearing on the internet, but their accuracy has not been confirmed by official materials. North of Huliai-pole, according to information from a number of sources, the settlement of Ternuvate was taken under control by the Vostok grouping. Meanwhile, video materials of the battles and footage of flags being raised were published. This may indicate the end of a period of relative calm in this direction and the resumption of more active operations. Pokrovsk direction. Both new reports and confirmed changes are arriving from here. The main adjustments concern the area of the settlement of Hryshin. According to confirming materials, Russian units have expanded their zone of control in this sector, and the entire territory previously marked as contested has passed under their full control. The advancement is estimated at approximately 500 meters. It was previously assumed that one of the forest belts was already under the control of Russian forces, and today this has received confirmation. At the same time, reports are coming in regarding counterattacks by the armed forces of Ukraine, with some sources claiming that these actions are yielding certain results. However, at the current moment, there is no convincing confirmation of this, so the situation remains without additional changes until more reliable information appears. In the area of Udakne, information continues to arrive regarding attempts by Ukrainian units using small assault groups to approach the settlement from the western side. According to various data, the settlement of Molodetska may be located in the so-called grey zone. However, there is no confirmation of its transition to the control of the armed forces of Ukraine, so it is still designated as territory where Russian forces are present. The possibility is not excluded that Ukrainian units are advancing south of Molodetska, bypassing the settlement, while Russian forces are simultaneously launching strikes on the advancing groups. Suggestions are also being made regarding a possible attempt to cut the supply road and isolate the settlement before an assault. However, this remains only a hypothesis without confirming materials. Previously, a video clip from the Novomykolaiv area was published, based on which an advance by Ukrainian units in this sector was suggested. But these conclusions are speculative in nature and may not correspond to the real situation. Dobropilia salient. Reports from here are mainly coming from the Novyi Donbass area. Counterattacks by the armed forces of Ukraine using first-person view drones are being reported. However, no significant advancement by Ukrainian units has been recorded. Simultaneously, information is appearing that Russian units have completely occupied the settlement and have begun a mopping-up operation. Video materials from 2 different points had already been published previously, which indirectly confirms active operations in this area. Regarding the settlement of Belitske, information is arriving about strikes being launched on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. However, as of the preparation of this review, there is no confirmation of Russian units establishing a foothold within the settlement itself. We recall that information about the possible presence of Russian forces in the eastern part of Belitska appeared several days ago, but official confirmation has still not followed. Therefore, the map in this sector remains unchanged. Sloviansk direction. We move to this sector, as no significant changes have been recorded regarding Kostiantynivka as of today. In the Sloviansk direction, updates are noted in the areas of Zalizhnyanska and Orakovo-Vasilivka, and reports are also coming from Reznikovka and Zakotne. Confirming materials indicate that Orakovo-Vasilivka has passed under the full control of Russian units. Similar reports had appeared previously, but for a long time they were not accompanied by visual evidence. Now such confirmations have been obtained. Footage was also published previously in which a forward position of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in a strongpoint near Minkivka was recorded coming under fire from the armed forces of Ukraine. According to the same data, Russian units advanced approximately 1.5 kilometers. As of today, reports are appearing that they have already entered Minkivka directly, which indicates the further development of the situation in this sector of the front. Confirming materials were also received indicating that Russian units entered forest massifs and established full control over the given territory. Based on the available data, it can be assumed that assault operations in the direction of Minkivka are currently being undertaken. In the event that this settlement is taken by storm, the front line will most likely level out not only along the forest belts, but also directly along Minkivka. Earlier reports had already appeared regarding pressure by Russian forces on Pryvillia and Holubivka, which indirectly indicates the general direction of the offensive actions. It is not excluded that at the time of the recording of the video material, a significant part of Minkivka is already under the control of the Russian military. Additionally, confirming information has been received from another sector of the line of combat contact. Previously, a video clip was published from a specific point which recorded an attack by an infantry unit of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in the direction of Nikiforivka. According to the same information, the advancement in this sector amounted to as much as 5 kilometers. Previously, the map had been colored accordingly. However, regarding the settlements of Bondan and Vasyukivka, confirming materials were absent for a long time, and there were only reports from the Ministry of Defense regarding the transition of these settlements to the full control of Russian forces. As of today, confirmations have appeared regarding the capture of the entire adjacent territory. At the same time, there are reasons to believe that the advancement was carried out precisely in the specified direction, while Bondan and Vasyukivka, apparently, are predominantly located in the grey zone. Ukrainian sources have also not provided information regarding the presence of their units in these settlements. Due to the lack of unambiguous confirmations, these settlements are currently designated as contested. As soon as reliable materials appear, changes will be promptly introduced to the map. Nevertheless, it can already be said that the front line will most likely be leveled in the sector from Pazino to Nikiforivka, and a significant part of this territory will pass under the control of Russian forces. Reports are also arriving from the areas of Reznikivka and Zakotne. According to available information, Russian units have significantly expanded the zone of control between these settlements, advancing to the north of Zakotne. Previously, an assumption was expressed that after establishing control over Reznikivka, further pressure would be exerted in the direction of Kaleniki, and the adjacent territory might also pass under the control of Russian forces. So far, no official changes have been recorded on the map. However, incoming information indicates a possible development of the situation in the near future. As a rule, confirming materials appear within 1 to 3 days, after which appropriate adjustments are made. In the Krasny Lyman direction, no significant news or changes in the situation have been recorded at the current moment. Moving to the Kupiansk direction, it is worth separately noting an address to the viewers and commentators. The author emphasizes that they carefully read almost all comments and see remarks that the titles and previews of the video clips often look excessively loud or clickbaity. However, such a format is largely dictated by the requirements of the YouTube platform. Without attractive headlines and covers, the audience reach decreases, the influx of new viewers diminishes, and there is a risk of the channel's metrics falling. At the same time, it is emphasized that the information is taken exclusively from open sources and generally corresponds to reality, and the author tries to avoid excessive exaggeration. Regarding the Kupiansk direction, both news and changes continue to arrive, as well as video materials from the Kupiansk-Vuzlovyi area. This clip had been shown previously, and it is mentioned again in the context of the current review. According to the presented footage, Kupiansk-Vuzlovyi is under the full control of the armed forces of Ukraine, and Russian units are not observed in the central part of the settlement. The person recording the video material moved without a bulletproof vest or helmet, which indirectly indicates relative safety in the center of the city and the absence of close proximity to combat positions. At the same time, reports are arriving about assault actions in the area of Kupiansk itself by Ukrainian units, as well as about changes in the area of the settlement of Kutkivka. Confirming materials testify to a significant expansion of the zone of control of Russian forces in this direction. The day before, a video clip was received from one of the points where an advancement of 3.5 kilometers was recorded, and today information appeared regarding the mopping up of the entire adjacent territory. Some sources, citing soldiers on the ground, claim that Kutkivka has already passed under the full control of Russian forces. However, official visual confirmations have not yet been received. If this information is reliable, the appearance of additional video materials or geolocated footage can be expected in the coming days. To the north, in the Veliki Burluk direction, changes affect the Chuhunivka area. From this sector, confirmations have been received regarding the expansion of the zone of control by Russian units by approximately 500 meters. Despite the apparent insignificance of the distance, in winter conditions, even such an advance is fraught with serious difficulties. At the same time, the central and eastern parts of Chuhunivka mostly remain either under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine or in the grey zone, where there is no stable presence of the parties. Simultaneously, information is arriving about strikes on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of Katnie, Hrihorivka, Obukivka, Novohuzhnivka, and Kolodiazne, where first-person view drones are utilized daily. Similar activity is also recorded by the armed forces of Ukraine against Russian positions in the areas of Milov, Vidradne, Dvorichanske, Krasne Pershe, and Kamyanka. Confirmed changes have also appeared in the Vovchansk area. According to the received materials, a significant part of the settlement of Hravska is under the control of Russian units, and the front line has been leveled along the road passing through this sector. Previously, advancement in the area of Simonivka and a mopping-up operation were noted, and now a further expansion of the zone of control is reported. It can be assumed that in the future, the entire settlement of Hravska will come under the full control of Russian forces, after which it will become clear whether the advancement will continue further. Simultaneously, information is arriving about intensive combat operations in the area of Vovchansky Khutori. In the Sumy direction, both changes and new reports are recorded. Updates concern the area of the settlement of Vysok, south of which Russian units expanded the zone of control by approximately 500 meters and occupied the adjacent forest massifs. Previously, video materials were published from a point where an advancement of 200 meters was recorded. Taking into account the incoming information, it can be assumed that a significant part of the settlement is already under the control of Russian forces, especially since the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation also previously claimed its full transition to the control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Additionally, an expansion of the zone of control to the northwest of Hrabovsk is reported, which is confirmed by the materials received. Strikes continue on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the areas of Ryazne, Taratutin, and Novodimitrivka. In the northern part of the direction, no significant changes have been recorded. However, high activity of first-person view drones, supported by aviation and artillery, is noted. Advancement is claimed, but there are no documented new lines at the current moment. As of today, the situation is characterized precisely by these changes and reports. Gratitude is expressed to all viewers for their attention and support of the channel, with a traditional reminder to subscribe and a promise of new meetings in the next episodes.